This is Rabbi and Son, hot takes on news, pop culture, and religion with Rabbi Patrick and my son Javon. How you doing, Javon?
Fine.
Fine. He added a little something extra there. Produced by Darshan Yeshiva, and we're so glad you're here. This is our series that we're doing just of Reddit, Am I the A's? I think you know what the blank blanks are. This question is, am I the blank blank for not raising my kid Jewish? 26-year-old with a 6-month-old baby boy that she had with her boyfriend Josh, not his real name, who sadly passed away from a car accident while she was pregnant. Josh was Jewish and pretty religious, but not religious enough to stop him from hooking up with a non-Jewish woman. These are her words, by the way, not mine, and having a child. So her parents were, from what he had told her, not happy that she was dating a non-Jewish person, but they came around and, you know, they were pretty good.
Dating, you mean?
What's that?
You were dating?
Yeah. They were dating, the two of them. Yeah. And they weren't happy about it, but they kind of came around over time. And they have a good relationship, and it's made stronger by shared grief. Well, about 7 months into the pregnancy, they floated the idea of the child being circumcised, which this is part of the Jewish religion, and she said no. She said that she's an atheist, and while she respects their beliefs, she doesn't want to raise the child Jewish and wouldn't circumcise him. She plans to celebrate Christian holidays like Christmas and Easter, since those are the ones she grew up with, but in general plans to raise the child an atheist. However, she would allow them to teach him about Judaism as a culture, celebrate the holidays, as long as they didn't try to make him believe in God, share their family history. And once he was old enough to understand and make his own choice, he could convert to Judaism if he wanted. She thought the compromise was fair, but they disagreed. Josh's cousin told the parents that she was bummed out that the kid wasn't being raised Jewish. Besides being religious, they're both very proud of their heritage. She doesn't know too much about their family history, but what from she gathered, they are descendants of Russian Jews who survived pogroms. The father's side, they're descendants of Middle Eastern Jews who had to deal with a lot of discrimination. They feel sad that this Jewish lineage dies out. I hate when people use that phrase because it's not true. Even though they have a living grandson, and so apparently bothered them so much that they even briefly discussed trying to have another child, but decided against it. The mother of the deceased asked if she was willing to reconsider raising the child Jewish, saying that they were, willing to help out if needed. Despite all that, she said no, and here's the reasons for saying no. First of all, I don't even know if I could. I know the basics of Jewish law, like not being allowed to eat pork and keeping the Sabbath, but with some quick Googling, I learned that there are a lot of other rules I would have to learn, including kashrut and some rules around idolatry. Interesting that, those lists she picked. I have some statues of Hindu gods I bought because I thought they were cool looking. I would have to get rid of those. I feel like my compromise of allowing them to teach my son Judaism as a culture and their family history is fair enough. I've been feeling really guilty about this. I really do respect Josh's parents. They're great people. And part of me feels like I should just agree with the request. So, am I the blank blank?
Okay, so I'm going to speak.
First, I feel like, can we just first of all just say sorry to this woman for losing Josh? I mean, that's sad. This is a sad story.
Yeah.
Like, let's just go there first. Okay, now go ahead.
But no, I will say, because I feel like, besides, I don't have a kid, but like, I feel like I get where she's coming from more so than you do. As a non-Jewish person in a Jewish household who happens to be a rabbi.
Sure.
I know I know the basic stuff too. And it's just like, that's not what she wants for her kid. And it's like, it's her kid at the end of the day.
Right.
Like, the fact that she even thought to herself that she should make a compromise about her child is like ridiculous to me. It's your child. Like, this was you and Josh decision.
Right.
Like, what y'all would have had worked out. Josh is no longer here.
Yeah. Do we even know like what Josh wanted? I don't think we even know that, quite frankly.
Exactly. But she's an atheist. She doesn't mind, like, teaching the family history and teaching Judaism about the culture.
Right.
But, she needs to, the moment you make your child, what you want for your child, a compromise, Like, I feel like it's just so disrespectful to you as a parent.
Right.
Because this is your child.
Right.
You don't compromise on the grandparents on what your child needs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't want to do that. You don't have to do that. And like, for the cousin, tell the cousin to have a baby. She's so bummed out about Josh's kid. You go have a baby. You raise your kid Jewish. This is not your life. Your life is not that child's life. And I am so glad that this mother is like, I want my child to be able to make this choice.
Mm-hmm.
I want my child to be able to be like, because like you can grow up in a religious household and you can be like, oh, this just sounds like complete malarkey to me.
Right.
And then, but you have to still smile and be like, oh yeah, like, and then you get older, you're like, oh, that was never for me.
Right.
Like,
Right.
so giving your child the opportunity to be like, learning about it and seeing what's out there and like whether they want to do it or not do it.
Right.
Like, it's still a 50-50% anyway. Like whether or not they were going to continue or, leave.
Right.
And it's like the grandparents didn't know their place. Like, you're the grandparents. This is not what you're not primary responsibility for anything.
Yeah.
You're the grandparents. Stay in your place and let me be in my place as the parent to parent this child.
Yeah, the problem is the grandparents don't know what their place is because this is a unique situation. If this were Josh and whatever this woman's, name is, I mean, these are made up names, obviously, because it's a throwaway account. If it was the two of them as a couple, this actually wouldn't be that complicated. They would do what most, like 70% of Jewish marriages now are to non-Jews in America. So I tell you, it gets a little frustrating to me when it's like, oh, it's such a unique circumstance. No, it's not. Actually, it's more unique when two Jews marry each other.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually more unique now, outside of Orthodox Jewish community, right? So yeah, most of my weddings are people who are not marrying Jewish people marrying non-Jews. So yeah, I kind of don't buy the whole like, oh, this is so like complicated. It's not. What's complicated about this is that her partner is dead. And it would be interesting to know what Josh would have wanted. Would Josh have said, hey, I know unique circumstances, actually raising the kid Jewish is very meaningful to me. We can still have the Christmas tree and the Easter candy, but like, can we kind of make Judaism the household religion in our own way? And I have a feeling she would say yes to that. Because what she's talking about is, I don't want to be erased from this child's background. She's saying, I want a Christmas tree and Easter since that's what I grew up with. She does not want the dead father to be the only one raising this child.
Mm.
And to be honest with you, I think it's an unfair ask to make this child's entire spiritual and cultural identity about a person who's no longer alive.
Mm.
I think that's actually very unfair. The compromise position, I actually would say to the grandparents, start with what you got on this one. Okay, so she said she will like raise the kid like knowing about like Jewish holidays and the cultural background. Awesome. That is a decent place to start. Work from there. Because what are your goals anyway? You want to see the kid have a bar mitzvah? I mean, that may have not been in the cards anyway.
Yeah.
The guy, like she said, like the guy wasn't religious enough that he was only going to date a Jewish woman, right? So we already know something about Josh. Maybe Josh wasn't that into it, meaning into religion. Maybe he would raise the child in this kind of, and I think it is awkward, and I can get criticized for saying that I think the 50-50 position is hard to pull off. And that it actually is kind of better to have a dominant religion in the household with shared culture, right? So the household is Jewish. Let's say mom is, whatever, something else. Okay, great. The something else is part of the cultural identity of the children. It should be. That's who they are. but like the religion of the household is Judaism. Or hey, I'll give up the fight, Christianity. Why not? But I think it's very hard to do this kind of like tit for tat. You get the tree, I get the menorah. You get the latkes, I get the Easter basket. It doesn't work. It's not healthy.
I mean, but I will say, like, I don't know. I feel like I don't. It's like considering she's an atheist, it's like Judaism has a lot it is very involved.
Yes.
It is it is very involved.
It is very involved. If you practice it, if you actually practice it, yes.
Yeah,
involved.
very involved.
Yes.
Very a lot of very, so many holidays.
Yes.
So many food restrictions
Right.
and dish placement and silverware, usage.
We never got you those labels that you wanted.
It's just I get where she's coming from. That's like a hard thing to do, especially if you weren't growing up like that.
Right.
So yeah, I get why. Yeah, but I do feel like, Christmas and Easter, that's very much that's very much a cultural thing now.
Right.
Like people just put up a tree.
Right.
And they go do what do you call it when you race with the basket to find the eggs? Easter. That little
Easter stuff, yeah.
Yeah. The little
Easter,
thing with the basket.
the egg hunts and whatever. Yeah.
That's very that's in the American culture at this point. Not that it has religious significance, but kids.
Yeah, it's part of the culture. Right.
Yeah, but I do think you could have a blue and white,
Christmas tree or something
with little menorahs on it, and you can have an electric menorah in the window.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes,
you can make it work.
But yeah, sometimes you can but I feel like with the grandparents, I feel like more of the focus should have been on. I get that you're oh yeah, we have this lineage and this legacy, and we want this to be remembered. And I'm gonna say something that most people are not gonna agree with, but it's when it comes to this stuff about legacy and stuff, it's simple. It's I get that you want your child to learn about it, but you saying you even contemplating having a second child, that's very extreme.
Yeah, that was insane.
And you're not in a healthy place. Your son is dead. You should grieve him.
Yes,
rather than focus on all this extra stuff.
Yeah.
About this family history, because at this moment that doesn't matter.
Right.
There's a baby and your son has died and you need to get your life together.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the legacy stuff, yes, you should want your child, your grandchild to know that. You would wish for them to know that. But then it's for you to be oh, the line is gone, even though you have a grandchild right in front of you. That's sort of kind of you don't really see that grandchild as your grandchild.
Right.
You're seeing it as a legacy piece.
Right.
And I think what the mother should do is she should be look, what I'm going to have you do, you're going to grieve and then we're going to have the conversation.
Okay.
And if you're still talking crazy, then I'm going to have to, limit interaction. I mean, everything ends.
Mm-hmm.
Us humans as a species, our existence, it'll come to an end eventually. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So all this this trying to hold on to something that's it's trying to hold water in your hands.
Okay.
Trying to grab up water.
Okay.
It's gonna slip through your hands.
Right.
The child should know about their history, but you should not fixate on legacy.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, everything that we do now is gonna not matter eventually, because there's gonna be no Earth.
Oh, God.
You know what I'm saying?
This is a little bigger picture than I think these people are going to be able to operate with.
No, but I'm just saying, it's at the end of the day ends.
Okay.
The sun rises and the sun sets.
I don't know. I think that's a little bit nihilistic.
It is, but that's just the way. That's what's going to happen.
But human beings can't operate on that level.
But that's how the cookie's going to crumble.
Doesn't matter. People can't operate on that level.
They can.
Then let's just all end it now. I mean, what's the point then?
Go ahead.
Human beings deserve better than that.
You would say human beings deserve better than that, but human beings are the one that created all these weapons to take out other people.
I think that's a little bit extreme, and maybe we can bring it back to Earth a little bit.
But yeah,
for these people,
back to Earth. Everything ends. Every line ends. People, don't. The more and more you spread out in the generation, and the less a certain thing has happened. A certain tragedy has happened.
Okay.
People are not, it's just the younger ones are just going to be okay, that happened. You don't have to keep saying that and revisiting this horrible thing, because I get it. And that hasn't happened to me. So that's not something I share.
Okay.
It happened to you, and you feel such a close proximity to it because you were closer to it.
But don't you think that there are things that a peoplehood would experience that would be so foundational to who they are that you kind of can't slough it off like that. Like, for example, like with Black Americans and enslavement, right? Like, that's such a huge part of the story that you can't just kind of say, like, well, everything ends eventually. I mean, it's like, because that's just part of that particular human family's experience, right?
I would say apples and oranges.
Really? How so?
Yeah, apples and oranges.
How so?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the Passover Seder? Right? It's that retelling of a historical.
No, but I'm not talking
foundational
about in this religious sense. I'm talking about what the mother and the grandfather said about, like, knowing about their personal family history and their great whoever who survived.
Okay.
Sure, that situation
and whatever.
Yeah. My point is that the further you get from people who've actually, like, been in close proximity to people that been affected, the more don't really, it doesn't really have that, like, weight behind it.
Sure, I would agree with that. Yeah.
So, like, that was the point. But should the child still learn about that history? Absolutely.
Okay, I agree with you on that. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, that's like a personal family history. The kid will still learn about, that in history class. Fingers crossed. Like, you don't ever know these days.
But they wouldn't learn about it on the personal level.
Yeah.
Because that's part of the thing of, like, Holocaust history and all of that, is there's one thing to say this happened to those people over there versus this happened to your great-grandfather. Right? Exactly. That's a different... It touches in a different way. Exactly. Even if you never knew your great-grandfather, even he could have been a real jerk for all we know. But, like, still, it touches in a different way.
So, yes, the child should learn about that. Like, that is, family history. But it's just like, I don't know if I would want my child to be a part of a family that's, considering contemplating having another child.
Yeah.
And how the grandchild is, like, not seen as a grandchild. That's where I am like, that's what she need to be like, you know what? Clearly, either one or two things are happening. Clearly, these people are like that, or they're grieving.
Right.
And their grief is like they're spitting out anything that's coming out their mouth right now.
Right. And that seems to be the case, because you've got a 26-year-old who has a 6-month-old. And I'm trying to do the math here a little bit. And, while she was pregnant, the boyfriend died. So this was like a year ago, let's say, or something like that this happened, right? So she's had this child for 6 months. They've had their son deceased for maybe a year, it sounds like, just from the way she talks about it. So yeah, and around the 7th month of her pregnancy, they were talking about. So before the 7th month of her pregnancy, Josh had passed away. So okay, got it. I mean, at the end of the day, you're right. I think that the bigger problem is the parents and their grief. Their grief is running the show here.
Yeah, you can forget about all the other stuff I just said.
Right, take the religion stuff out of it.
My biggest problem. I don't trust those people. Now that you said it like that, like, once you were, like, questioning, like, and you were saying that the line is going to end, the lineage is going to end,
right?
While your grandchild is born, you're not seeing that child as a child, right? As someone your son helped bring into this world. You're seeing them as a piece to further, like, your bloodline. You're not looking at them as a person. You're looking for, like, a lifeline. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, I don't trust, like, the moment you said that, and then it's like the moment you said that, and then it just, like, the icing on the cake, with the sprinkles and candles about you contemplating having another son. That is just wild. That is wicked. It's like, I want to say grief, but people can grieve for a while. But it's just like, until they're done grieving, until, like, sense, reason can come back, I don't think you should have them around those people. I don't know. That's not something I can't. People a lot of comments slide, and I like to listen to what people say, and I'm very particular about words, as you know. So I listen, and if words sound crazy like that, yeah, clearly, yeah, she needs to do something else.
Yeah, I mean, this again goes back to, she's trying to raise a child with a person who's passed away. And we don't know, like, what his values were. We don't know what mattered to him. We don't know what the conversation would have looked like. because of his desire to, be with her, right? Like clearly to him, this wasn't an issue. Would this then have turned into a relationship where is there an alternate version of this storyline where he's alive? They're together in some capacity, maybe married, maybe not. They have a 6-month-old, and he's not raising the child Jewish enough. And this is a problem for the parents. Or is there another timeline where she's pregnant, he's talking to her about what matters to her, what matters to him, and they come to some kind of agreement on it. But the problem is he's not around. So we don't know. And he would have been alive to take the brunt of whatever the parents didn't like about how they were raising the kid.
But it doesn't,
if there even was one, right?
The thing is, and this is for parents in general. I'm generalizing the statement. Stay out of your kids' relationships.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you can see a relationship is, your child's in a relationship, what you need to do, and this goes for really anything in life, and this is how I operate. You can give people advice. That's the only thing you can do. And what they do with that advice, give them advice, and what they do with it is what they do with it. All you can do is watch. And if they come to you and be like, you're right, then you could be like, yeah. And then, but, trying to put people down. But it's like this inserting yourself into your children's intimate lives to that extent first of all, it's weird. Right. It's very weird behavior. Focus on your marriage. You're in a marriage.
Right.
You don't stop being married because you're 60.
Right.
And you've been together for 20, 30 years. Marriage is constant, constant, car in need of repair.
It's a constant car in need of repair. Okay, cool. I dig it.
Yeah. So it's just stay out. Stay out of your kid's relationship. Shouldn't you feel weird about inserting yours? That's just very weird. I don't understand. That's weird.
Here's what the parents need to do if they're grieving. So that's the first problem. They need a year. They're not at a year yet, or maybe they're barely at one or just at one. What the parents have to say is, look, you're going to try to raise a child without the father. That is going to be an extremely difficult task. And she did say, to this woman's credit, she did say that they offered to help. Great. You're doing the right thing as the parents. You're raising our child's child. And, we don't know what he would have valued. We know what our family values. We're here to try to provide that component in the child's life that is very important. It's important beyond the sort of, oh, it's a culture and oh, it's whatever. There's an actual deep significance to it. But you let us know what components you need of that. We'll provide it to you, no questions asked. And it's the whole, what's that expression? You attract more bees with honey than vinegar.
You attract more flies with honey than vinegar.
Yeah, exactly. Going at her with grief and anger and frustration and bribery or any other number, that's not going to work. That's just going to turn her off even more.
Which you shouldn't have had. See, and this is my qualm with raising kids religiously, because you're not giving them a choice. You are trying to outline their lives based on your belief.
Sure.
But they're their own people.
Right.
Your children are not, they are composed of your DNA. They are not you. They are not an extension of you.
Right.
They're their own singular people.
Right.
Who are going to do what they want to do and behave like they want to behave in their own lives.
Right.
And it is just oh, he's not really the lineage is gone because he's not, all the way Jewish enough.
Right.
And that's just
we don't know that mattered to him.
Exactly. And clearly.
And maybe that's part of the problem too, is that they're trying to hang on to something that maybe he wasn't interested in hanging on to.
Exactly. Yeah. And I just feel parents should, if they're going to raise their kids religious, they need to prepare themselves for that kid to walk away.
Right. Right.
As a parent, you should not be trying to, plan out a child's life.
Right.
Because, life is very life.
Right.
very chaotic, very think there's going to be one path, there's another path that opens up, and so on and so forth.
Right.
And like you're trying to pre-plan for that, it's just unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could have a problem where your child grows resentful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because like at every turning point, everything they want to do, you're like, no, you're going to do this.
Right.
Or this how you do this, and that's how you do that. And it's like, no, these kids, they have their own lives, they're their own people. If you want to raise them like religiously and like whatever, cool beans. But once they get older and they make a decision that this is not something that I want to do, I don't want to go to all these events, I don't want to do this religious thing, I don't want this is not something I want to commit myself to. I never want to commit myself to it, but I just had to.
Well, and also people commit is a good word, because in Judaism it is a commitment. Commit to different things, right? So you have people who, they absolutely will celebrate one holiday, but not the rest. Or they'll absolutely think that one element of the religion is incredibly important and then be dismissive of all of the rest. And life's a journey. So, this woman is raising this child as kind of an atheist Christian, for lack of a better word, but with this Jewish identity on the other family's side. And it could very well be that he identifies deeply with the deceased father and wants to really go into that. And you as the parent have to be okay with that. And, he may be upset that you didn't give him enough. Why? Because kids always get mad at their parents for something, right?
Thankless job.
It's the thankless job. I like that. But it's fair. You're doing the best you can. As long as the relationship with the parents isn't manipulative or something like that, I'm on team outsource the Judaism to the grandparents. It matters to them. Let them do that. Don't be a problem. Don't cause an unnecessary problem with them. And the thing is, if they want to help raise the kid with that identity, it is incumbent upon them to do it, and not you. I would argue. You just don't take it from the child.
Yes.
Don't take it from him.
And on the mom side, which I am on her side, I think the grandparents should not overstep.
Sure.
She said Judaism as a culture, not as a religion.
Impossible to do that, but okay.
Hey, I'm just with her.
Listen, there's a lot of people who disagree with me on that, including very traditional Jews, by the way.
Yeah, I'm just with her.
Yep.
But there's ways you can teach the religion with, teach culture, give or take Passover, because, you really can't, that's
you can't hide that one. That's you kind of can't. People try. People have Haggadahs that don't have God in them, which I'm like, that's
I guess Moses just was,
chilling.
real, perky and, wanting to get people out. But, yeah, no, the grandparents shouldn't, overstep and should not, if she just wants the child to go to, synagogue, that's not where the child needs to be going.
Right.
If you want to be like, hey,
if you want the kid to not like Judaism, send them to synagogue.
if you want to be like, hey, look, kid, this is this holiday. This is, a book, give them a book. This is what Passover is.
Here's the holidays, and we gave you a calendar with the holidays on them. And, bring the kid over. And if we would want you to participate because you're mom and we appreciate you and we're not going to make you feel uncomfortable. But also we understand if you just want to drop the kid off and it's grandparents' day. We understand that one too.
Yeah.
How do you want to play it, mom?
Yeah. So as long as ultimately, I'm saying compromise, but I don't really want compromise. You just, it's
compromise with people that are going to be decent. Don't compromise with people who are trying to manipulate you.
Yeah, and it's but my mind is still ringing. There's this prick, coming in between my eyes every time. I'm just maybe compromise, but then it's just the fact that they don't actually think the grandchild. There's just something in my spirit that's they're not in it 100% for it. They don't really love this child 100%.
Wow.
In that.
Wow. That's a lot to read into.
That is all.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I mean, if that's what they said, and they were worried about lineage and stuff, I just don't feel like they love that grandchild 100%, as opposed to if their other child has married a Jewish person and they had a grandkid, and that grandkid is more of a grandkid because the other parent was Jewish.
Wow.
That's what I'm reading into that, and I can't. That's a hump that I could not ever
There's
get
just something you have that feeling.
Yeah, because it's like you're putting prejudice on a child.
Right.
For the child is here by circumstance, and not because the child wanted to pop up in the belly,
right,
and wanted to be born. We're all here by chance,
right,
not by choice. So being punished for that is like ridiculous,
right?
And it's still like you want to have a whole kid. Like I can't. Those are two humps that I can't cross, and I'm just not. I'm mom character. Lady, no, I just can't. Like I'm trying to be reasonable. I just can't. Those are two things. Because I'm very, when people say things, even when people say things out of anger, it's just, that's the truth. And once someone tell you the truth, you take that truth and then you deal with people accordingly. There is just something. Yeah, don't. If they come around, pleasantries and whatnot. Yeah, I just, those are two ginormous humps that I can't.
All right. Well, with all of these Reddit things, the problem is we don't know the full context. We don't know everybody's saying.
We can still,
you can still write the story as you would like. Oh man. All right. Well, thank you, Javon. And let's keep doing more of these. Let's bang through it. Thank you to our sponsors at Darshan Yeshiva for making this content possible. Darshan Yeshiva provides beginner-level online Jewish learning, including the very popular Conversion to Judaism program, with sponsoring rabbis and students all over the world. Start your Jewish journey any place, anywhere, and anytime with our conservative, reform, reconstructionist, Jewish renewal, humanistic, and post-denominational rabbi mentors. Become the Jew you always wanted to be with Darshan Yeshiva.